Hi everyone. Today, for our second episode of Climate Fusion Talk, we'll have the honor to invite two partners at Keymaker. So I got to know Tim when I was investor, like since 2 years ago. He was a managing partner at Wesley Group. Tim, not today, brought his partner at Keymaker, Homan, to this podcast. So how about this? Like Tim and Homan, do you two want to
Yeah,
introduce yourself?
yeah. I'll go first really quick. Hi, my name is Timothy Wang, managing partner here at Keymaker. Quick story about my background. I started out as an operator. So for the first half of my career was doing sales and business development at startups. Went back to business school to be on the other side of the table. And for the last 10 years, as was where I met you, Tim, I was managing partner at the Westy Group. So this is a venture fund focused on climate and technology, as well as industrials and mobility. And so for the last 10 years, started out as a summer intern all the way to managing partner and had some success there, but ultimately wanted to start a new seed fund with my partner Homan.
Great. Great to be here, Tim. My name's Homan Yuen, also a managing partner here at Keymaker. So my background is very technical. I did physics at Berkeley and then did my PhD in engineering at Stanford. After that, I had my own startup company doing solar cells based on some of my research at Stanford. And so that was a successful venture where we set world records in performance and ended up selling the company. And then after that, I went to the dark side, so to speak, and joined venture and was a partner at another deep tech firm called Fusion Fund. So I was there for about 8 to 9 years, and have since left, obviously, and to join forces with Tim here at Keymaker, we'll be focusing on deep tech oriented companies.
Awesome. So, when I checked the website of Keymaker, I noticed that you guys are focused on three areas, which is all like super important and huge.
Yeah.
One is industrial automation. The second one is AI and data infrastructure. The third is climate and energy. These are great topics. But it seems that behind that, right, the key technology that you guys are focusing on is actually in optoelectronics. This is something that, like I think I'm definitely a layman. I never invested in this kind of companies before, and I have
Me too.
very little knowledge. So,
Yeah.
how like could you guys tell me like tell me about it. Like why do you choose this topic?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I'll I'll let him explain the technical parts of it, but I was trying to figure out what's the one word that kind of symbolizes all the different parts. People think data centers, energy, industrial, they think they're kind of separate things. Really, they're all converging. And that's really at the core of our thesis. So I was trying to figure out what's the right word that kind of symbolizes all those big mega trends and what's the underlying technology. So of course I used ChatGPT to figure out what's the right word. And it came out and spit out optoelectronics. And then I sent it to Homan, who of course said, "Hey, Tim, you idiot. Did you not know that my thesis has the word optoelectronics in the thesis? Like, can you say it? What's the name of the thesis paper?"
Oh, it's like I developed a new semiconductor material for a long wavelength optoelectronics.
So he knows this at the core. And I think that reinforced that this is the right core technology
Hmm.
at the center of these mega trends.
Hmm. That's interesting. That Holman, do you want to like why do you switch from a technical background and now you're an investor in optoelectronics?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Just briefly, optoelectronics basically it's two words: opto, which means light, and electronics, which is devices. And so it's the combination of light and devices with semiconductors, for example. And it's a lot more prevalent than people think. Cameras are optoelectronics, lasers, LED lights. Even like when you have your phone and it does the facial recognition, that's a form of LiDAR. That's optoelectronics. So optoelectronics is really everywhere, and it's a basis for a lot of different technologies that exist today and have probably will exist in the next 10 years. And so it's been, I think, not ignored, but people don't really know it as well. And not the number of people in the world who actually know this area very well and know the people in the area are not very large. And so I think that's an unfair advantage that we have where we know a lot of these people. And so we're able to find the founders, know the companies who will use the technology and understand the technology. And so that's why we think that's a good place to underpin where are we finding the next innovations in all these different areas that you mentioned.
I see. Let's tie it back to the three pillars of key makers. Like give us some examples. Like how these three like gigantic topics related to optoelectronics. Why are the current solution might not be able to may not like sufficiently fit the need today?
Yeah, yeah. I'll start off with one. It was my first investment at my previous firm. It's called Luminar. It's actually a LiDAR company, so a laser sensor company for autonomous driving. So this was a huge mega trend for the last 10 years, culminating in now finally being in production, the sensor company, and it's in my car, in my Volvo. And so, a lot of traditional thought process was around using cameras and radar was enough. That's what Elon would say. At the time, we all believed that you need some LiDAR as well too to have, true kind of sensor fusion, so to speak, around the three different types. And so this is where a photonics background in optoelectronics pretty critical into understanding will this technology work and can you do it at a cost basis that works for the automotive industry? And is it auto grade? So these were all the things that were critical in terms of diligencing and understanding if this company is the right one. Because as you may know, Tim, that we reached about peak LiDAR in probably 2019. There seemed to be 100 or plus of them.
Yeah,
And the one we picked or the one I picked happened to go public and produce really great returns and is the only one really that you can find in automobiles today.
I see. Homan, do you want to
Yeah, I
since
was going to
you're on
say, I have
stage, say
another one.
something?
Yeah, I mean, there's a company that Tim and I invested in recently called Mojo Vision, and what they're doing is taking some core micro LED foundational technology that they have. So micro LED is basically think of the LED lights you have, but they made it very, very small for displays. And so they're using that technology for data centers. And as you can imagine, you cannot talk about data centers anymore without talking about energy and the energy supply. And so if you can connect the GPU chips, the memory that you find within the servers in the data centers using optical connections,
Hmm.
you can actually reduce the energy usage of a data center by up to 100x. I mean, that completely changes the game on how you design data centers, where you put them, how you operate them. And if you're the operator, imagine training an AI model at 100x lower cost or energy usage. You just win. And so Mojo Vision has technology that they're now implementing into some data centers where you're able to connect all these components by optics. And
Hmm.
it's not necessarily a new idea, but they figured out all the engineering on how to do it.
Hmm.
And so, it'll be exciting to watch them over the next few years and see this come to fruition.
I see. Can you tell us a bit about the challenges that, I mean, the optoelectronics has been this, like Homer, you studied that for your master's and PhDs probably 20 decades ago. So the theory has been there. Like, what are the challenges that we're not able to see Mojo Vision 20 years ago or in Luminar?
Yeah, not to date myself, but I did my PhD in the early 2000s, and that was kind of around the fiber telecom boom, and that was kind of
Hmm.
like the previous wave for optoelectronics, sending signals through lasers and detectors.
Yeah.
Um, that technology has been there, but I think a lot of different things, whether it's cost,
Yeah.
I think the use cases were not quite there yet. Manufacturing was still relatively new for these devices.
Mhm.
And so, it took, roughly 10, 15, 20 years for the industry to mature enough so that you can now apply it to so many different applications. The venture ecosystem really went towards a hard software bent in the 2010s. And I think now people have realized, hey, software can only take you so far. If you don't have the right hardware, the right components, the right physical infrastructure,
Yeah.
you can't win the game.
Yeah. And we saw this directly with the automotive world. It was a cost question, right? So these lasers have
Yeah.
existed, as you said, for decades. And we saw all the old kind of autonomous cars with huge sensors on the buckets, going, turning around on top of cars. And it was too expensive. It was never going to make sense for a consumer vehicle. And only until the last kind of 5 years has that changed. When we invested in Luminar, they were selling the sensor for about $130,000
Mm.
each, which is more expensive than most cars.
Yeah.
And so now cut to they're in vehicles in production, they're able to create it for less than $2,000.
Mm.
So once you reach that cost down curve, that's when the inflections start to happen.
I see. What drives the price to go down um, in these cases?
I would say it's scaling, but he knows from firsthand knowledge.
Yeah, it's definitely scaling. It is, I think, knowledge and how to manufacture things more cheaply. I think it's
Hmm.
using different materials and different device sets. I mean, just think about, for example, a big flat screen TV. It was like, what, $5,000 for a 40-inch, maybe like 10, 15 years ago. Now you can buy like a 70-inch TV at Costco for $300.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all just LED screens. And
yeah,
so just the manufacturing scale and experience changes a lot of it.
I see. That's interesting. I think this gives me like two questions here. I think one is, since 2000s, how do you see the changes of, venture capital funds toward, these kind of optoelectronics devices? Yeah, let's start from this question.
You should speak firsthand because he raised capital from them starting back in 2007.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, as a founder, I mean, I was doing another type of optoelectronic device, which was a solar cell. I mean, you're converting light into electricity.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think there was always interest. The vision and the ideals and ideas are always there, but it's the execution, right? And the cost structure.
Hmm.
And so, as manufacturing was maybe not quite as mature back then as it is now. It did cost more money to manufacture solar cells. But as you've seen over time, solar costs have dropped by like, 5, 10, 20x.
Mhm.
And you're seeing just the benefits of having cheaper optoelectronic devices. And so you're seeing this the deploy act out in different areas, whether it's your displays, your solar, data transmission devices, lighting, for example.
Yeah.
You're seeing the benefits of what happens when you have a more mature ecosystem that you can now put into different applications.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Also thinking another question is, I think the whole supply chain of,
Mhm.
let's say, for solar cells, for LiDAR, I think a lot of them came from Asia. Tell the audience a little bit about like how the supply chain looks like. And especially I want to ask the follow-up question would be, like how would that affected by the current tariffs?
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret in historical terms, a lot of this technology was developed and invented in the US, but
Yeah.
clearly manufacturing has found its place, whether it's Taiwan, Southeast Asia, or other parts of Asia. That's where the manufacturing base is. And so, like, for example, with TSMC, Morris Chang, who was from Stanford, developed the first fab over there. And so I think there's a lot of benefits to doing this. You're allowed to specialize and focus the manufacturing areas. But yeah, there are definitely geopolitical risks that happen. And now we're seeing, the current administration in the United States trying to figure out how to rebalance
Hmm.
or figure out how to deleverage some of that advantage maybe some other countries have. So it's gonna be a little messy, but we'll see whether some manufacturing moves back to the US or you just distribute the manufacturing base across different countries so the supply chain is a little bit more robust.
I see. Have you two seen any trends of, like these are manufacturing opportunities coming back to the US, or, where are they? And whether you think they could be competitive as what we had to see the supply chain in Asia before.
Yeah, no, I think you've seen two or three different trends. I think one has been just diversification of your supply chain.
Yeah.
I think that was actually very prominent during COVID, frankly, right? I think we all saw that certain supply chains were too critical, so we had to diversify. So I think that has brought and reshored some types of manufacturing. Number one. Number two, I think government has had a role in bringing this back as well. Understanding that Tesla has a manufacturing facility here in California. They kind of pioneered what it takes to build a car company here in the United States, and taking advantage of that and having government support. So I think that has been helpful. We obviously saw the Inflation Reduction Act
Hmm.
really pave the way for new types of technologies being manufactured here, whether it's battery technology, solar cells, renewable energy. These are critical, not just for supply chain, but you could call it for national security and energy independence. So those are two big trends. I think the third has been the new administration trying to bring some manufacturing back. However, some of that just takes either too much time
Hmm.
or doesn't make economic sense. So I think this is the uncertainty that is happening in our current state that we need to kind of navigate over the next few years.
I see. Thank you. Thank you so much. And also like can you tell us about like since like you two just formed Keymaker, you're looking at the future, like at least like 5 to 10 years or even more, longer time frame. So how do you think what are the the key trends that you guys are looking at, and how do you imagine that future?
Well, want me to go?
Yep.
Well, I think it's stuff that we all already know. And the part of the reason why we chose these three pillars or three mega trends, we believe these are the big drivers of the global macro, economy for the next several decades. And so if we think about energy and we think about data centers, it's only going to increase. And so for us, the trends are finding and identifying companies that meet that moment. Meaning, if there's a huge gap between energy demand and energy generation, well, we got to figure out two sides of the equation.
Yeah.
One side is new forms of generation, which we understand. But Mojo Vision is a prime example of the other side of the equation. We don't only have to talk about generation. We found a company that reduces energy by 100x at a data center.
Mm,
So that's just game changing at the end of the day. And finding and identifying those companies and fostering them and introducing them to commercial partners
mhm.
is very critical for us. So we think there are more of these types of companies in the pipeline that we're excited about.
Do you think that that's it for data so so Keymaker is investing in the energy infrastructure companies for data, let's say for
Sure.
data center, then who are the end customers? Are they mostly like big corporates, let's say like Meta, Google, or are they it's a fairly fragmented market that a lot of new players, that's what I heard, like not like real estate players coming in this market.
I was going to say real estate, yeah. So obviously hyperscalers, that's a huge customer base.
Yep.
You can think of all the large big tech companies. Clearly, it's a real estate play,
Yep.
right? This is where the worlds are converging, but also energy firms, right? So if you think about three huge industries, right? Real estate, energy, and technology, they're converging at the end of the day because data center plays is a real estate play,
Yeah.
but it's also dovetailed with energy and technology. So it's a unique time to exist because these three big worlds are kind of coming together.
Hmm. I see. So I assume that the customers of, let's say, your investment let's say in data center will be I think both,
All
right? They're
three,
looking at
all three.
all kinds of market. So not specifically on, like not just big players.
Correct. Yeah, because a lot of the companies we're looking at, yes, technology companies care, but we're
Hmm.
getting calls from energy. Big utilities are concerned with where do you put this data center? Because I don't have generation next to it. So they're trying to find solutions just as well to figure out this generation problem, an issue that we've got, but also a location real estate problem that we have.
I see.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of tech companies actually buying their own energy sources or even becoming energy generators. And so you're seeing like a blurring of the lines. And so
Yeah.
do tech companies become energy generators? Do the energy companies end up moving towards tech? It's unclear. And so there's a lot of land grabbing that can happen.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, just like yeah, I think this is a moment that we see a lot of uncertainties and opportunities at the same time. So yeah, it's hard
Right.
to say. But also like what do you think, like also like I know this is hard to answer, but I'm just curious that what would be the role, let's say like with those Asian countries or markets that used to supply, like let's say optoelectronics, devices in manufacture, or they manufacture those devices. What's their new role here? Or are they also part of the investors here in the space? And how are they gonna work with the US companies in optoelectronics?
Yeah, I mean, everyone still has a role. I don't think it's feasible to move all manufacturing back to the US that the US would need. For example, I was one of the last generations of people who went through college to learn about semiconductor manufacturing. Who's going to run all these factories and do the R&D? I mean, there's literally no one except my age and older. So you can't, that's a very slow shift you have to enact. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having manufacturing in both places. Maybe you do one component versus another component in a different place, or you just have dual source to manufacturing. So I do think there's a lot of opportunity there. And, there's a lot of good signs coming out of the Asian countries as well, whether
Yeah.
it's Taiwan, Southeast Asia, Hong Kong, China. And so, what is the technology set that comes up? I think different places have different advantages and different cultures and how to develop technology. And so, we'll see innovation happen in every different area.
I see. Huh. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I think I want to switch to another set of questions about your fund. So how do you think that Keymaker can help with founders in these three in these three spaces? These are all huge spaces.
Yeah.
How do you think you can help?
Right. Well, I'll give you some context as to how we came up with the name Keymaker. I don't think I ever told you this, Tim, but there's a quiz here for you, which is Keymaker's named from a movie. Do you know that movie?
Oh wow. Okay. I don't know. I don't know which movie.
It came from Matrix.
Okay.
And in Matrix, there's a character, his name is the Keymaker. And there's two levels to the meaning of our name. So the
Uh-huh.
first is the Keymaker, the character, he is of Asian descent. We are clearly of Asian descent.
Yeah.
The second part is in that movie, all he does is he opens doors for everybody in the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Matrix.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And I think that's at the heart of what we want to do for all the people we invest with. And so when we think about investing in a company and or a person, it's really about helping them grow their business.
Hmm.
And so for us, I think what we've done and we've proven over our decades of piece of investing has been not only helping opening doors to customers and partners and suppliers, but it's to investors and potential buyers. And I
Hmm.
think that's our focus here is really expanding the networks of our founders and helping them grow.
I see. But this actually this and then I have a question here. It's like since like it seems like Keymaker is focusing on like these kind of deep tech founders.
Yeah.
What's your expectation on the time frame for those investments? And just like also wondering what's your fund strategy toward those investments?
Yeah, glad you asked this question. I think it's at the heart of almost every conversation we have with investors. Yeah, I think the traditional way of thinking about deep tech is, oh, this is going to take 20 plus years, right, to come to an exit. Well, we're here to prove you that we've each had exits in deep tech companies in under 10 years. And our core of our thesis is that we can identify these companies and do this again and again. We can replicate this phenomenon. We think it's critical that we identify companies that have a faster path to commercialization, right? So my first investment, Luminar, we invested in December of 2017, went public in December of 2020. I returned nearly a 10x in the summer of 21, and that sensor is in my car now. So all sub 10 years. So it's very possible. And Homan, you
Mhm.
should talk about your own startup as well.
Yeah, so I mean, as I mentioned, the solar cell technology was basically had origins from my PhD work at Stanford. So from 2007 to 2014, we took that from lab and ended up selling the company in 7 years. And so it's possible. I mean, there are many technologies. If you find the right technology set, right commercial use case, right kind of market timing, you don't need, 10, 15, 20 years to exit. And so that's one reason why when we formed Keymaker, the common question we always get is like, why do we need yet another venture capital fund focusing on technology? And we felt that a lot of other firms were perhaps maybe focusing too hard on other things, which are very useful and very needed for society, but not quite sure you can get it within 10 years, like things
Mhm.
like nuclear fusion, quantum computing. Those timeframes, in our opinion, are just going to be way too long to get
Mhm.
a liquidity event.
So it sounds like Keymaker is still like trying to have a typical VC timeframe,
Correct.
but then in the
Right.
deep tech area in these spaces.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see. How do you think you can help those founders? Take back to my question, my original question.
Yeah, so I think, part of the reason why we're being brought into deals is because we can connect them with the right people. So I would think it's to both of our networks. So mine is definitely more sales and business oriented. And so if you want to talk to customers, if you're selling, energy equipment and you want to talk to utilities, or you're selling a car sensor and you want to talk to automotive folks, or you're an industrial company wanting to talk to ABB, these are all the types of introductions we can make. right? These are the networks we have built over the time of our careers, and we're able to open those doors.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I think the reason why we pair up well is, that business and technical side. We're both former operators, and so we can help our founders, with real life experience. Obviously, he will have come from more a go-to-market, sales motion. I can help a lot more with like, hey, how do you start scaling your technology? How do you do manufacturing? How do you hire for the right engineering team? These are all things that you kind of don't really know until you go do it. And so I think our experience really helps the founders through that whole journey, not just from the first like year or two that we invest in them.
I see. So what do you think are let's say, the biggest challenges for these kind of deep tech founders, especially you want them to exit within 10 years? What's the biggest pain points or challenges?
I think with some technical founders, they always feel like they need to have a perfect product.
Hmm.
And so you really just need to get out there, get commercial validation, get the market to know who you are, and get them to use you right away. So when we look at companies, there's three risks, but the two risks we think that matter the most are engineering risk and commercial risk. Like technical risk always exists, but I think everyone can evaluate that. The hard part is how do you evaluate that technology can scale and be cost efficient as you scale up? I mean, that's been a common problem with a lot of venture companies where, you just keep burning more and more money as you kind of grow the company and grow the scale. Like that's not how it works. You have to be able to make margin. And so we look at the engineering risk, and then we also look obviously at the commercial risk, which is, hey, does the company actually want to pay money for your product? And that's something Tim is very good at sussing out and figuring out, hey, is this something that the company would want to pay? Is this the right product? Is this the right entry point?
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think you answered all my questions about, go through a little bit deeper about different kind of applications, of optoelectronics, thesis, and what kind of what kind of founders you're looking at, how you can help them. Any final questions you think we want to share with the audience?
No, you should ask if you have additional questions. Happy to answer them as well, Tim.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. No, I think these are great. I think we are because I think given the base we're covering, this is a large, this is like probably include most of the emerging trends we're looking at in the near future.
Yeah,
So yeah, happy to like we should definitely deep dive next time. If we have like deep dive into specific verticals or new investments you guys make, that would be
cool.
amazing.
Would
Yeah, I
love,
think,
yeah,
yeah, I think it'd be great to get some of the companies we mentioned on this podcast too, and they can go into more detail and
yeah.
Sure.
how they're using their technologies to, work on, AI, energy, and things like that.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Of course. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you, Tim.